For 51 years, he's remained a John Doe.
On a quiet summer afternoon in 1975, two people riding ATVs in an open field made a horrific discovery. What they saw became a mystery that has lasted for decades. The body of a man was found abandoned on a dirt road approximately 4 miles west of the 4400 block of North University Drive in Lauderhill, a city once patrolled by the Broward Sheriff's Office.
He had been not murdered at that location, but he had been brought there and dumped at that location after he had been killed.
The victim was discarded in an open field, his identity lost for decades in the surrounding underbrush.
There wasn't a lot of evidence left behind other than his body.
The passage of time and the lack of clear photographic evidence makes this case even more challenging for investigators. They canvassed the area, reviewed missing persons reports, and followed every lead they could find. But the trail went cold until now. The victim has been identified as Robert Russell Freese.
Somebody's been looking for their loved one for 51 years. And every holiday they've been looking for him. And we now know who he is.
Veteran homicide detective John Curcio was recently assigned to the Broward Sheriff's Office Cold Case Unit. He has spent the past several months working to identify the man who was found murdered and cast aside on a dirt road. For Detective Curcio, identifying the victim could lead to finding his family, who may unknowingly hold the key to solving his murder.
If I find his family, I'll be able to at least hopefully know who his associates were.
Finding his family is the missing piece of this puzzle.
He had no identification or no means of identifying who he was. My speculation, and I've been a homicide detective for 30 years, is he was not killed at that location. He was brought there after he was deceased and left there.
With no identification, no witnesses, and no DNA, Detective Curcio turned to modern technology in hopes of finding a fingerprint match.
In 1975 in particular, there were no computer systems to match fingerprints, and people would hand search records of victims' fingerprints against known 10-print cards of people to try to make a match.
Detective Curcio's persistence paid off. With assistance from BSO's Crime Lab Latent print unit, Detective Curcio was finally able to identify the victim and uncover where he was born and where he last lived.
We were able to match him up to an individual who had been arrested once in his life in Pompano Beach in 1975, a young male born in 1957.
The match identified the victim as a young man named Robert Russell Freese, born in Nassau County, New York. He was described as being 6 feet tall, weighing around 170 to 175 pounds, with blonde hair and blue eyes. Records show Freese had been arrested on 2 misdemeanor charges 4 months prior to his death. At the time of his arrest, his last known address was near the 700 block of Northwest 6th Street in Pompano Beach. Despite this pivotal discovery, Freese's life and death still remain a mystery.
We know very little about him other than that he was born in New York, and we've been unable to get any birth certificates out of New York to help us find his mother and father's names.
In an effort to find Freese's birth certificate and ultimately his family, Detective Curcio submitted a subpoena to Nassau County, New York. However, there simply wasn't enough information to track down his birth records.
I'm sure that once we find family members, cousins, brothers, whoever, they'll be able to give us enough information where we at least can start determining who killed him.
Faced with yet another roadblock in this investigation, Detective Curcio is now turning to the public for help. He's urging anyone who may have known Robert Freese or his family to call Broward Crime Stoppers at 954-493-TIPS with information. Tipsters can remain anonymous, and the smallest of details could help bring justice for Robert Freese and his family.
Anytime I work an old case, almost every time the family says, I didn't think anybody still cared about my loved one. And, you know, for me, the success is letting them know where their loved one is.